This is not just a beat 'em up. This is not just a shoot 'em up. This is not just a racing game. This is not just a ninja game. This is not just an RPG. This is the story of my life.
dyxnt is a multi-genre game developed by the talented people of Hybrid Studios and directed by Tobias Barnaby and produced by Daniel Grigorov. It first began as a Kickstarter, and due to the successful backing gained by the funds and the traction needed for this game to come into fruition, on July 16, 2019 this game was released. I bought the version for the PlayStation 4, which would also be the version that I will be reviewing today. So let's dive into this review. dyxnt is about a kid voiced by Ma Tootle who is growing up in a place known as suburbia. His home where everything to him is mundane, predictable, and even worse, boring. He narrates quite a bit about the memories of his upbringing, his thoughts and point of views on the hardships that are commonplace within various societies, lessons in maturing, and understanding how to deal with personal situations while on the way to discovering his own identity. Everything kicks off when he finds an arcade inhabited by people who seemingly share his outlook and becomes enthralled by the atmosphere and the video games there. This satisfies his hunger for something different than the obvious he is accustomed to. His fascination with the many games, in addition to continuously play them, serves as a way to temporarily cope with issues he wrestles to fully comprehend. An imaginary gateway, if you will, from his problems that soon becomes therapy for him. Over time, the importance of the game he plays becomes more and more of a somewhat metaphorical depiction of what his perspective is in regards to the events occurring in his life. Soon, in his own reality, he views the characters in the games along with their adventures as positive instruments of inspiration and motivation for him to process through his own life path. Hybrid Studios utilize various art forms to bring this game to life. The one that is prevalent to the story is the pixelated art that you obviously see. It is through this form that not only the main character is realized, but also the world in which he lives in. Suburbia, where the main character lives, looks like your everyday suburban neighborhood. The little nuances of animation relates not too much but not so little as to what you see happening on the screen. A lot of the times throughout the games, there are segments where the main character will go about his thoughts on topics, while the game presents a semi-still image with little to no animation, and sometimes feel a little bit drawn out. On another note, these moments look like the type of visuals I would see looped on when you're searching for a YouTube lo-fi, beach, chill, steady type of channel. But due to the multiple games that reside in dyxnt, the animation and graphics of each game resonates with the aesthetics of the 80s, but only better due to the obvious evolution and advancements within gaming since then. The gameplay of dyxnt is like a trail mix of various playstyles, because there's not just one. There are various types of games you play in dyxnt which drives the plot forward, but also pays homage to popular games that were considered groundbreaking and popular for that era. There are a total of 5, each of which is enjoyable, but short to the point as if it's just considered a sample or a demo you're playing. So don't fall in love with them too quick, because before you know it, they'll be over with. Unfortunately, there are no tutorials of what the buttons do within these various games. So if you are unaware of what the influence of these mini-games are based off of, be prepared for a little bit of trial and error. The controls for the most part are straightforward and simple, so when you are thrown into each of the games, it should not take you that long for you to understand the objective and how to play. So in saying that, here are the 5 mini-games you will be playing. The first minigame is called Beating Heart, which serves as the introduction to the game's story. If you went into this game oblivious to what was in store, you could have mistakenly assumed that this was going to be the type of game you're going to be subjected to. Beating Heart is your old classic side-scrolling beat-em-up where you have the ability to punch, jump kick, throw, and lastly pick up weapons to use against your enemies. To me, this is reminiscent of Capcom's 1989's Final Fight, where you can see the same gaming mechanics being put to use. second minigame is called Out of Voids, which is a side-scroller shooter which puts you in the seat of a spaceship traversing terrains. You have to maneuver and shoot through various types of enemies that will be shooting back at you. You have the ability to shoot two types of shots: the regular beam, which does a moderate amount of damage, and the charge shot that does massive damage. This game is a love letter to 1987's R-Type, which is identical to Out of Voids in every way. The third minigame is called The Runaway. It's a simple driving game in which the player is tasked with dodging other vehicles and refraining from bumping into objects. The main objective is to make it to various checkpoints so that more time is added to the timer located at the top center of the screen. If the player does not make it to a checkpoint and consequently run out of time, it's game over. To me, this game pays homage to Sega's 1986 game Outrun, where the player is tasked with similar objectives on top of other obstacles they gotta dodge. The fourth minigame is called Shadow Play, where you play as this ninja. Now I know you may be wondering just who is this faceless warrior? Don't worry, I was on the case, which was very difficult when the only clue you have to go off of was a mask that looked like the Anbu Black Ops from Naruto. But after research and rigorous nights of piecing together clues, I found out who this warrior is. The identity of this masked warrior is none other than Kimetsu from Taken, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, I know, shocking, you probably can't even believe it, but let me explain. The last time you seen Kimetsu was in Taken Tag Tournament 2. That game she outsmarts your submission and runs off with his swords, which could probably explain why she can use that sword to cut down the enemy so easily. But also, take note that in the beginning of the game when you start, when she's airborne, you can clearly see there's a small dagger-like item in her other hand, which even makes my case more probable. That is because in the Taken series, she uses a dagger primarily as a weapon of choice. But if you think about it, it could also mean that this game could possibly be a part of the Taken universe. Strange, but it's not too far-fetched. I mean, you got Noctis from Final Fantasy 15, you got Negan from Walking Dead, Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, that professor from the Back to the Future franchise, lots of woods, Kangaroo Jack, Geese Howard from Fatal Fury, robots, bears, and animals, and about 3 generations of unresolved daddy issues. Just a big gumbo of God knows what characters in this game. But then again, you know, they're just a theory. A game! So this game takes its cues from the 1989 game Strider. The only difference is that in Shadow Play you are totally on rails. You can only move forward, jump, slash, and slide through its various stages. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that this guy right here from Hayao Miyazaki's masterpiece Spirited Away makes a cameo in this game. You see, it's like he kinda, you know, netted up again. The last minigame is called Kill Screen, a first-person dungeon crawler that uses classic turn-based RPG mechanics for its combat. The primary objective is to search out this dungeon to destroy 3 dragons for whatever reason. The dragons are those conveniently red dots located on your minimap. Along the way, you come into contact with monsters that you have to do battle with, and you will only have 4 options to choose from. Every monster has a weakness that can be exploited to deal more damage to them. You just have to figure out which of the 4 options that you have that can do the trick. This sort of reminded me of Persona. Speaking of Persona, this sort of reminded me of the Shin Megami Tensei Digital Devil game. If you don't know anything about this game, the Shin Megami Tensei is pretty much the ancestor to what over the years would sooner or later become the Persona series. So in other words, this would in turn give us this. Kinda hard to believe, right? You never... The music for 1980s is captivating with its old school electronic pop and brooding but yet soft synth ballads. Perfect for setting the atmosphere for this era this game masterfully presents, and the tone for this game. In my opinion, I get a little bit of Daft Punk with the touch of Jamiroquai blends from this game. Music for 1980s was done by legendary Yuzo Koshiro, who did music for the iconic Streets of Rage series and also Revenge of the Shinobi. Anton Drumburn and also Daniel Rezenfis provide their astounding contributions which should not be overlooked. Actually, Anton and Daniel combined have a business venture known as Symphony, where they both provide their expertise in sound designs and music to various properties such as commercials, this game of course, anime, and much more. As of now, in the time of doing this review, I believe the only way you can acquire the soundtrack for 1980X is if you was one of the backers on their Kickstarter pages during their development. If you were one of the backers who gave enough to reach the tier required, I am sure that they are receiving their soundtracks via digital means and some by way of 12-inch vinyls. I hope at least that the music for this game becomes accessible to the general public in the near future, because it's good. 1980S is available on Steam, GOG, PlayStation 4, Nintendo Switch, and will be porting over to the Xbox One soon. This game is a love letter to the gamers of the 80s. It's very quick to get through, seeing it only took me like 1 to 2 hours to complete this game. However, at the very end of it, it sets up for what appears to be either a sequel or an update. Either way, I'm sure there will be more that you can expect from this game's story. So winner, if you're thinking about purchasing this game as of this moment while I'm posting this review, think of this game as episode 1 of a series, or even better, the first issue of an interactive graphic novel. In the end, I had a very good enjoyable time playing this game, so I would recommend it.